Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And last night, the Phils broke their four-game losing streak in a huge way. We'll break down Kyle Schwarber's season-saving grand slam and have the discussion about how big of a win this really was for the Fightins.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for checking us out. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk radio space. 5 years on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, Phillies Sports Talk Radio. 3 years a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member, and 3 years your host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that keeps you up to date on Locked On Phillies and helps us out here on Locked On Phillies as well. It confirms we're making good content. It helps us out with producing more content. And also, listen, you want to watch this show on YouTube. If you were watching on YouTube today, if you are, you can see the comically large Phillies giveaway, Jim Beam hat that I'm wearing. This thing takes up half the screen. I know it's insanely big, but I already had it on when I sat down to record the episode. Bottom line, subscribe to the YouTube, rate and review if you're watching or listening to this in podcast form. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's get right into last night's game because the Philadelphia Phillies, they found a way to victory. It wasn't the cleanest start to the game. I was a little nervous there when they went down 3-0 right off the bat in the first inning. I was like, here we go again. Tyler Phillips gives up a bomb in the first inning. You're behind the 8-ball. It's like, how does this team keep doing this? Well, let's start before the game, actually, before we get into the game. Before the game, there were some reports that the Phillies sounded like they were having a team meeting before the game. Rob Thompson neither confirmed nor denied the reports. He talked about it and he just said that stays in the clubhouse. But it seems like if we can infer, if we can assume the Phillies had some type of meeting yesterday before the game, which I would have guessed went something like this. Hey, guys, we suck right now. It's time for us to stop sucking at baseball. Let's not do that because we're too good to be this bad. All right, we all on the same page? Let's kick it into gear. That's what I assume the meeting basically broke down to. I'm sure there was more nuance than that, but that's the long and short of what I would guess you'd be saying in this situation if you were the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know who led the meeting. I don't know what went on exactly, but whatever happened, the Phillies came out and they got behind the 8-ball again, and it might have felt like, here we go. We're in for another long night at the hands of one of the worst teams in baseball. You're down 3-0 early. And then you get a couple back, right? You find a way to cut the deficit to 3-2 a little bit earlier on in the game. By the end of the second inning, you had found a way to add a couple more. Edmundo Sosa grounded into a double play, but JT Realmuto, who was out at second, was able to give enough of an issue where Bryson Stott scored. So you got that, and it was 3-1. Or rather, it was, bottom of the third that they cut at 3-2 because then you had another fielder's choice Bryce Harper grounded into in the third inning. It's like, okay, 3-2 in the third, plenty of time. We're all good. You can find a way to get back into this game. This team is fighting back. They got a chance. Down 1 to the Marlins does not feel like an insurmountable deficit, especially in the third inning. And then in the top of the fourth, Tyler Phillips gives up 2 more runs. It's like, man, we got 2 back. We give up 2. We're down 5-2. What in the world is going on with this team? And then in the bottom of the fourth inning, with 2 outs and the bases loaded, it may have been the swing that saved the season. I saw a lot of people saying, this Kyle Schwarber swing saved the Philadelphia Phillies season. Now, I said that the Brandon Marsh catch in Seattle that he caught blind was the turnaround point. And then the next thing you know, they won 2 or 3 against the Dodgers, and we were right back in the hole watching them lose 3 or 4 to the Diamondbacks, a couple in embarrassing fashion. So we'll have a conversation in the final segment about when we can officially declare the Phillies back. I'm not doing it off of one game. I'm not saying Kyle Schwarber saved the season. What I will say is it was a huge home run in a game the Phillies really needed to find a way to win. A grand slam, opposite way, great piece of hitting. Speaking of opposite way, there was a lot of great approach. Rob Thompson talked after the game about the Kyle Schwarber swing, about the team fighting through a 3-run deficit, 2 3-run deficits in this game. And also talked about using the whole field. Like he said, it's crazy how when we start to hit the ball the opposite way, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but how that creates the offense and everything starts to roll again, using the whole field. You saw a lot of opposite field big time hits. Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber's grand slam. Bryce Harper went to the opposite side of second base. Like you saw that from the Phillies. They ended up in the game. Like that Kyle Schwarber grand slam only put them up 6-5. They added more on too to make it a 9-5 victory. 13 hits, 9 runs. That's what you expect against a team like the Marlins from a lineup like the Philadelphia Phillies have. Something else of note in this game. The Phillies, well, rather Rob Thompson, decided to give Trey Turner a day off. Now, it wasn't a clean and clear benching. It was more of a get off your feet, get baseball off your mind for a little bit. Don't worry about going out there. Just take a mental break, a physical break, and I understand that. Trey Turner missed time with a hamstring injury. He's not a young player anymore, so you look at it and say, get him a day and get Edmundo Sosa out there. Maybe he gives us a spark. Now, Sosa didn't do anything crazy in the game. The lack of range was on display, and he's a solid glove, Sosa, but he's not like a plus defender at the major league level. And yeah, there were moments where I was like, okay, I see reasons why this guy is a bench player, and we've seen that throughout the year, but we've also seen reasons why he can give this lineup a spark. So I'm not knocking Edmundo Sosa, but I'm also not saying he's replacing Trey Turner. This was what we talked about yesterday, though. Like, what can Rob Thompson do? Minor shakeups to who's playing, possible. Major shakeups, not really realistic. And the minor change that they made yesterday, Turner out, Castellanos into the 2-hole. I don't know how much, like, it's hard to say, like, the correlation between that and the Phillies scoring 9 runs and getting 13 hits. But whatever buttons were pushed yesterday, it was enough to win. It wasn't enough to be comfortable throughout the entire game, but it was enough to win. It was just such good work. And going back to that, using the whole field, like, listen to some of these numbers from the Philadelphia Phillies hitters, and this is just proof positive that they were doing the right thing and approaching the right way. They only had 3, I believe, fly ball outs in the game. Maybe there might have been one more in there. The night before, 17. So they were getting on top of the baseball, hitting the ball on the ground, making the Marlins make difficult plays or getting better opportunities for hits. Good things happen when you hit the ball hard on the ground. And that's what the Phillies did. I mean, I'm just looking at this box score, and I'm looking at the names and the guys that we were worried about that needed, well, also, think yesterday. Remember who I talked through about who could have big days yesterday for the Philadelphia Phillies, like who you'd be looking for to lead stuff? The vocal leader, Kyle Schwarber, the on-field leader, Bryce Harper, and I said one of either Brandon Marsh or Bryson Stott's got to give you something. Listen to what those guys did. Schwarber, only 1 for 5, but a grand slam, 4 RBIs. Unbelievable moment for him in a big spot where the team needed it. Bryce Harper, 2 for 4 in RBI. Looked really good at the plate. Bryson Stott, 2 for 3, 2 runs scored and a walk. Brandon Marsh, 2 for 4. All those guys that I told you need to have big days had big days. That's it. And like on top of that, Alec Boehm, 2 for 4. He's got a 31 game on base streak. He's looked really good. JT Realmuto, 2 for 3. Johan Rojas, 1 for 3, 2 runs scored. He had a walk as well. And a lot of those, again, I told you, Stott had an opposite field hit. Realmuto had an opposite field hit. Marsh had an opposite field hit. Some of those guys, multiple. Kyle Schwarber, an opposite field home run. That's it. Just the approach looks so much different. And I've heard so much about, well, the Phillies need to change their approach at the plate. You're not wrong that the way that they're approaching certain at-bats have been incorrect. Like, just flat out not the way you're supposed to be playing baseball. They're pressing. But it's not as simple as just like sitting the guys down and saying, hey, do this. It's hard to take yourself out of that spot at the plate where you're mentally trying to do too much. Last night, the Philadelphia Phillies did it. Now, it's a constant struggle. That's not just one win, the season saved, everything's peachy keen, but it was a huge spot where they needed it, and everybody contributed. Last night felt like Philadelphia Phillies baseball. Now, we saw that in a couple of games against the Dodgers, and they went right back to their losing ways against the Diamondbacks. So I'm not making too much out of one win. I promise I'm not, but damn, does it feel good. Like, I did not want to do this podcast today. I did not want to go into the radio job today. If the Philadelphia Phillies had lost last night, I would have been in a really bad place mentally. But it's amazing what one win can do. And now you have 4 games against the Nationals, a very beatable opponent, just like the Marlins, all at home. It says it's Bank Park, of course, and you're going to get the opportunity to have your 3 best pitchers, Wheeler, Nola, and Sanchez, the 3 best available right now. Suarez still on the injured list. All 3 of those guys are throwing in this series. So you have everything set up to continue and build momentum on this one win. Still work to be done, but Kyle Schwarber, a huge swing in a huge spot. He's been so good for them. Bryce Harper comes up big in big spots. Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, I don't know that that's like a breakout performance where all of a sudden they're going to be clicking, but it was good to see them get some stuff working. Now you got lefty coming up in this series to start off against the Nationals. So we'll see what the lineup looks like. And if Stott and Marsh stay in there, Marsh more likely to than Stott, just because the outfield's kind of hamstrung with Austin Hayes being injured. But I just, it's you can breathe a sigh of relief, Philadelphia. The Phillies won a baseball game. And also, real quick, I wouldn't be like doing my job if I didn't take at least a little bit of credit. I put the victory shirt on yesterday. I CT guaranteed a victory. I felt a little nervous when they went down 3-0. I felt even more nervous when they went down 5-2. But why would I ever doubt the victory shirt? This shirt went, like 62-40 last year, or 60-42 or something, since I started wearing it on June 4th, 2023. Well, now in 2024, want to know, baby. The victory shirt lives on. We're going to carry this team where they need to go, even if it's from the magic of a Hawaiian shirt. But no, the team did the work. It was great to see. And now, coming up, we're going to talk about how they can build momentum going on into the series against the Nationals. We'll discuss that coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. But let's talk about our friends over at GameTime first. GameTime's absolutely amazing. If you're buying tickets to Major League Baseball games, or really to any event that you're going to need a ticket for, well, GameTime's the way to do it. GameTime's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app, they actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, so you can decide late if you want to go to the game. They got killer last-minute deals, like I was just telling you about, but there's so much more. All-in prices, which means those surprising fees that pop up at the end on other sites. No, you see them up front, everything up front with GameTime. You don't get like blindsided at the end. You can see the view from your seat before you purchase the tickets. And they have the GameTime guarantee, their lowest price guarantee, which means if you find a seat in the same row and section for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. They'll go ahead and give you your money and then some. They're amazing. They've got everything you need. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's the easiest way to know you're getting the best deal. They also have stuff for comedy, concerts, theater, other sports, everything you need. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB and all kinds of tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. You know that with GameTime, it's guaranteed. All right, let's talk about the series with the Washington Nationals that is beginning tonight. The Phillies, 4 games right on the back, and that's good. You don't want the Thursday off day and lose momentum or anything. No, you want to play baseball. You want to get back out there and keep hitting well. 13 hits, multi-hit games for a lot of guys. Hell yeah, get me back on that baseball diamond. So you got an opportunity. How do you take advantage? Game 1 against the Nationals tonight is a great pitching matchup from the Phillies' perspective. Zach Wheeler is on the mound. He's going to be facing off against Mitchell Parker. Parker has thrown 112 2/3 innings pitched to a tune of a 3.83 ERA. He's got 92 strikeouts in 112 2/3. So not a huge strikeout guy from the left side on the mound. He's given up 14 home runs, so he doesn't really give up a crazy amount, 1 every 10 innings. So he'll be good for maybe a bomb allowed tonight. Hopefully you get him for more than that. 29 walks, so he has been pretty good with his control. He just doesn't really have the strikeout stuff. And the whip is actually pretty darn good. The 1-2 whip is solid. So to me, what that says is this is a guy that gives up hard contact and extra base hits. Maybe not homers, but extra base hits, because you're looking at a situation where you need to find a way to scratch runs across, not by stringing runs to get or runners together, but by driving in runners in scoring position when you need to. The Phillies did that really well last night. You're going to look to do that again. I brought it up already. Tough lefty matchup, right? So is Bryson Stott playing? Is Brandon Marsh playing? Are you looking to get somebody else, another lefty, off their feet? I don't think Kyle Schwarber is going to ever get the day off, or Bryce Harper is ever going to get the day off. But what do you look at there with those 2 guys that I mentioned? Are they potentially guys that you look to sit? Does Weston Wilson go out there in the outfield for Brandon Marsh? Does Bryson Stott get the day off and Edmundo Sosa plays again at second? We'll have to see. I trust Rob Thompson with the lineup. I thought what he did last night was a solid switch up that didn't change too much, but changed enough that the team felt like you were trying something different, and it worked out. Let's hope that Rob Thompson presses the right buttons again tonight. But that's what I would do. I would bat some righties. Maybe I'd keep Brandon Marsh in there. Maybe I'd keep both of them in there because there is an argument for building momentum for Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh. They just had 2 hit nights, each of them. Let them stay hot. Let them see if they can do that. You should be able to beat the Nationals either way, especially with Wheeler on the mound. The real key to this game is going to be Zach Wheeler, though. Like, Tyler Phillips was not great in last night's action. He is filling right now the Taijuan Walker role from last year, where it's like just winning games. Now, he didn't qualify for the win because he only went 4 innings last night, but he's 4-1 this year. In the last 3 starts, he's given up 5, 4, and 8 runs. So he hasn't been great, but the Phillies are winning his starts. So I guess you can't argue with the results, but what you really need to start to build momentum, the rotation needs to build momentum. You need to get back to that point where you feel like every time you send one of your top couple of guys out on the mound, W. 7 innings shutdown, 8 innings shutdown. Great work out of guys like Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, and when Ranger Suarez comes back, him. Like, that's how you build momentum. And I think that this is a great opportunity with Wheeler on the mound against the Washington Nationals. The Nationals have not been incredible at the plate by any stretch of the imagination. They're batting .244, which is a respectable average, but they've only hit 97 home runs. For example, the Phillies, 146 home runs. There's just not that much pop from this Nationals lineup. The guys that you're looking at, like C.J. Abrams, he's leading the team with 17 home runs. Luis Garcia Jr. is leading the team in average and RBIs, 291 average, 59 RBIs. There are a couple other guys in this Nationals lineup, more so than the Marlins, that you're going to need to keep an eye on because the Nationals are a somewhat more competitive team. You're going to be looking at the real guy that I want you to keep an eye on in this series, if you're a Philadelphia Phillies fan, is James Wood. Young player, only 21 years of age, 6'7", 234. He's got 4 homers, batting .275. He has just been great for them in left field. He's got a lot of power. He's kind of like the O'Neal Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz type of, like where I'm talking about the Pirates and the Reds there. These big, strong guys that they'll strike out sometimes. They're not totally polished yet, but the exit velocity is insane. And when they barrel a ball, it goes. James Wood is a guy you're going to have to look out for. Bats lefty. So Zach Wheeler, righty lefty against him, is going to have to be careful in tonight's game if he is indeed in the lineup. We haven't seen a lineup yet, but the guys that you're looking at the top of this lineup, like Abrams, Garcia, Young, Keibert Ruiz, like not really dudes that you're overly worried about to focus on when it comes to, we've got to work around this guy. We have to approach this guy different. Now, you say that, but the Marlins weren't either, and you had a couple of guys that looked really good in that series or the short 2 games against Miami. So anybody can hurt you, but that's why I trust Zach Wheeler to go out and get you a strong performance in tonight's game. That's just the preview of game 1, where the Phillies, like last night, they're minus 180 favorites on the money line, I think. They're minus 275 tonight with Wheeler going on the bump. They're a 71.6% chance to win, according to ESPN Analytics. As much as last night was a must-win, just for the fact that you needed to break that losing streak, tonight's just as big of a game because, frankly, you should not lose a Zach Wheeler start against the Washington Nationals. You shouldn't do it. He's so good. Your team's too good. This needs to be another go win. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you don't need it. I'm already wearing the victory shirt, so you don't have to worry about that being part of the equation brought in. I'm just saying, like, logically, you shouldn't lose these games. So the expectations are still high for the Phillies, as they're going to be for the rest of the season. We're going to have a conversation in just a little bit, like I said, about when we can declare the Phillies officially back to the team that they were at the start of the season, or like back to being a great baseball team, which is ultimately the goal. And I don't think one game does that, but a couple of games against the Nationals put you close to that conversation. And it starts with Zach Wheeler, and game 1s have not been all that great for the Phillies lately. I think game 1 in Arizona is the first game 1 they've found a way to victory in a while. So this would be a really good start. You're not going to get many better opportunities than this one tonight. And just to take a look at the rest of the series, because some of this goes on over the weekend. We'll preview game 2 tomorrow and everything, so we'll look at this stuff in depth. But Aaron Nola faces Patrick Corbin tomorrow. Patrick Corbin, you might think that name holds a little bit more weight than it does. He's been terrible in his whole time with Washington. Nola, better pitcher, big advantage for the Phillies in that one. Christopher Sanchez against Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore's been disappointing for the Nationals at points this year. That's another game where you have the pitching advantage, and you already have the roster advantage in all of these games. And then the final game against the Nationals will be Taijuan Walker once more. We'll see if he can have a better outing against, you're looking at Jake Irvin, not Cole Irvin, Jake Irvin. So Irvin's been okay, the better pitcher of the four that you're going to be facing, the best pitcher of the four that you're going to be facing in the series. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to Sunday. Right now, the focus is taking 3 of 4 from the Nationals at bare minimum. A 2-2 split with this team ain't good enough, folks. And when you want to build momentum, you got to do it quickly. And you can't afford to do what you did against the Diamondbacks, where you take one game, get embarrassed in a couple. And no, that doesn't happen at home. That doesn't happen against this team. The Phils need to go out and win tonight, and they have every opportunity to. So the bar's still being raised. And the reason why the bar's still being raised is because we can't declare the Phillies officially back yet, no matter how big last night's game felt and how big of a relief it was to see Kyle Schwarber hit that grand slam. When can we declare the Phillies back, though? I'll tell you my thoughts as we wrap up today's episode. But I got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks first. You know them. Come on. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They got over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, you don't play against other users. You just play the numbers, man. You pick more than or less than on a bunch of selected stats. And if you're right, you string them together, hey, you can win some money. Listen to this. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Now, you don't need to put 4 picks in there. You can go with 2. You can go up to 6. There's a lot of options tonight. Well, do you think the Phillies are going to stay hot? I do. Do you think Zach Wheeler's going to have a great start? I do. Look at more on Zach Wheeler's strikeouts, more on Bryce Harper's hits, more on, if Trey Turner's back in the lineup, do you think he bounces back? I kind of feel like he does. All of that stuff. Lefty on the mound. Look at some of the righty hitters. Alec Boehm's been on base 31 straight games. He's been hot. Look at him too. A lot of options on Prize Picks. You download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. That's why Prize Picks is the best. They're a great app. They're still going to give you a great deal. Pick more, pick less. It's Prize Picks. You know it's that easy. Also want to tell you about Liquid IV. I mean, you see every night, right? When you have those great victory interviews, what happens with the daycare? They're pouring water all over the guy who wants. Kyle Schwarber got doused last night. But you know what regular water doesn't quite do? It doesn't hydrate you the way you need when you've had a long day or you've been out drinking the night before, you've been sitting at the ballpark. So when you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate with Liquid IV. And Liquid IV's popsicle firecracker flavor is a surefire summer hit. Liquid IV, you just open the packet, you pour it in some water, you stir it around, or if it's a bottle, you shake it up, you drink it, and it's just like, man, I immediately feel better. Headache's gone, feel more awake, like powered by LIV Hydroscience, Liquid IV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients. They can turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. Plus, you get 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. All right, well, let's talk about when we can declare the Phillies back. First, I do want to thank you, though, for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. Please make sure your second listen is Locked On MLB. Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan, he covers the entirety of Major League Baseball, so it's not just Philly-centric. It gives you a great view on what's going on around the league. He's got humor, he's got knowledge, he's got everything you need. It's the best. They're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, just like we are, and they're available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, Locked On Podcast Network is your team every day. So I'm not like, here's the thing. Kids these days say, keep that same energy. I believe that's an expression. I don't know. I'm almost 30. I'm getting old now. But what that means is when you're in different situations, you need to kind of keep a consistent approach to stuff. And I'm a guy, if you followed any of my work here on Locked On Phillies or any of the time I talk about baseball or any sports, I try and be as realistic and not like reserved is not the right word because I can get worked up, but I try and be as like level-headed as I rightfully can be in any given situation. And that's why when teams are slumping and the Phillies are in a bad stretch, I'm a lot less, not critical, but like a lot less concerned, a lot less fear mongering about, oh, this team stinks, they're not going to make the play. Like, no. I try and evaluate things as fairly as I possibly can, rationally. Sometimes I'm a little bit too level-headed, and that's okay. But what that also means is when the team has a win, I can't just go overboard and be like, Schwarber, the savior, the Phillies will never lose again. This season is saved. All of it. Like, I got to keep that same energy that I did when the Phillies were losing. When they win one game, it still is just one game. I'm not trying to take away from the excitement. It was a big one game, but I'm not ready to say, oh, the Phils are back. I tried to do it after the series win against the Dodgers, and then you had the game one win against the Diamondbacks, and it's like, oh, they've won 3 in a row. They've won 4 of their last 5 games on a West Coast road trip where they weren't playing that well against tough opponents. Great. The Phillies have come out of it. And clearly that series against the Diamondbacks showed that they weren't fully out of it. Now, I will stand on the fact that I've been saying the Phillies are trending in the right direction for about a week and a half now, and I have seen that from the way they've approached games. Even some of the games in Arizona, not the embarrassing ones, but like the walk-off loss and Zach Wheeler's last start, I thought they didn't play bad baseball, but clearly it's going to take a big sample size for us to believe the Phillies are officially back. I'm not ready to deem them back yet or anything like that. I just think last night felt like a big momentum-building win in a spot in the season and the schedule where you can stack some wins together. What I need to see for the Philadelphia Phillies, for me to consider them back, it's not about the quality of opponent because you can't control that, right? I can't say I got to wait until they play a good team because what if they rattle off 4 straight wins against the Nationals and then they go ahead and take care of business in the next couple of weeks and it's just like, oh, okay, I got to see them play like a first-place great team before I believe it. Like, no, that would be unfair to them. But you need to have a bigger sample size than just Kyle Schwarber at a grand slam. They won one game. This team is great. Here's what I'll say. My mark for this, I will know the Philadelphia Phillies are back when they win 3 out of 4 series. Not 3 out of 4 games, 3 out of 4 series. So they just lost one against the Nationals. Let's say they are Nationals against the Marlins. Jeez, I hope that is not a Freudian slip that becomes reality, not predicting anything. No, they just lost one against the Marlins, split against the Marlins. That doesn't really count. But now they've got a 4-game series. Yeah, splits aren't counting for these conditions, by the way. They've got to be series wins. But let's say they win 3 or 4 against the Nationals, then 2 or 3 against the Braves, and then they lose the series against the Royals, but then they win 2 or 3 against the Astros. That will be enough consistent winning against good teams and in solid spots that I'm like, okay, the Philadelphia Phillies are back. If that progresses through, you've got a tough stretch to end this month. After this series with the Nationals, this is why this is such a big series. Like I said, you got 3 with the Braves, 3 with the Royals, who are a solid baseball team, 3 with the Astros, another solid baseball team, and then 3 more with the Atlanta Braves. You're going to play the Braves 6 times before the end of the month of August. That's really big in a division that has you up only. It's not the deficit that you had before. Look at that, 6 games on the mark. The Braves could just hang with the Phillies the rest of the month, and if they win all 6, well, you'll be even in the division. Now, that's not realistic, especially considering the Braves have all these injuries and they're not playing all that well, but they have won 3 straight down there in Atlanta. I'm just saying, you have some big series coming up. You really do need to get hot, and that's why momentum from this national series is going to be huge. I'd like to see you get to 7, 8, heck, 9 games in the division by the time you're done this series with the Nationals, but some of that's going to depend on what goes on with the Atlanta Braves and the games that they're playing. We'll see. You can control what you can control. But when I'm going to declare the Phillies back, 3 series out of 4 won. Maybe 2 out of 3 if it's it is a bit of a sliding scale. You'll know it when you see it for sure, but I just like to put parameters on it. If the Phillies won all 4 against the Nationals, then 2 or 3 against the Braves, and then they won the next one against the Royals, I'd be like, okay, this team has found their groove a little bit. They dropped 2 games to the Royals because of pitching matchups and then go back against the Nationals. It's not an exact science is what I'm trying to say, but that is kind of my baseline mark. So I'm not jumping the gun. You might think Connie positive. He's going to come on here and say, oh, the Phillies are great. I told you so. I told you so. Now, I did tell you so about the shirt. Can't believe anyone ever doubted the victory shirt. But I'm not jumping the gun on this team's back. I'm just looking at it as, okay, they've got a chance to build momentum. Hopefully tomorrow we're talking about another win. I already told you I think they have a great opportunity to do that tonight against the Nationals. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for checking us out. Thank you to Kyle Schwarber for giving us a happy episode today. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, get your new notifications when episodes are posted and all that stuff. It's free. It takes like 2 seconds. No reason not to do it if you enjoy the content here on Locked On Phillies. So I appreciate everyone who's done that and going to. And I'll talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.